Warning! You're about to experience Metamodernism Uncensored, a podcast for diagnosing the cultural rot of the postmodern world and searching for real truth. It's time to question everything, especially yourself.
Welcome to Metamodernism Uncensored, the podcast diagnosing our postmodern world and attempting to push through to achieve metamodern synthesis.
And we really have quite the story for you today.
Oh, absolutely. So I want you to imagine something for a second. You're sitting in this, totally average, fluorescent-lit bank lobby.
Just a normal Tuesday, right?
Right. And you're there for a really simple reason. You hand the bank manager your genuine, state-issued California ID and your actual physical Social Security card.
The real deal.
The real deal, physical cards. But instead of looking at you, instead of, verifying the actual flesh and blood human being sitting right across her desk, she calls a total stranger 2,000 miles away.
Which is just insane.
Totally insane. And based entirely on the voice of that stranger on the phone, she has you arrested for the crime of stealing your own name.
I mean, it literally sounds like the opening scene of a dystopian thriller.
It really does.
Yeah.
But that exact scenario is the inciting incident of the story we are unpacking in today's deep dive.
Yeah, and we should state our mission for today very clearly.
Yes, absolutely. We are exploring the 100% true, painstakingly accurate historical account of a man named William Woods.
And this is all chronicled so brilliantly by the author Sean Dempsey in his essay, I Am William Woods, The Opposition.
And I need to make a really firm promise to you, the listener, right out of the gate here. Every date, every specific detail, every single word of this historical account is completely true.
Yeah, there is no exaggeration here.
None. The police reports, the court documents, the medical records, we've cross-referenced it all. This actually happened.
Which is exactly what makes this so much more than just, a true crime procedural about identity theft.
Right. If we just look at it as a legal case, we're totally missing the point.
Exactly. We miss the underlying existential horror of it all. This story is just the absolutely perfect lens through which we can diagnose our postmodern landscape.
Because it exposes a world where objective truth has been completely deconstructed, right?
Yes. It's been deconstructed and completely outsourced to the very institutions that were built to, uphold it.
Wait, before we go totally down the rabbit hole of the story itself, we throw terms like postmodern landscape and metamodern synthesis around a lot on this show.
Oh, yeah.
So for someone tuning in who maybe isn't super steeped in philosophical theory, how do we define the specific trap that Woods actually fell into?
Well, think of it this way. To understand the postmodern condition, I want you to imagine a map of a city.
Okay, a map.
Right. And this map becomes so incredibly detailed and so heavily relied upon by the government that people start, living on the map instead of the actual physical street.
Oh, wow. So the map literally replaces the territory.
Exactly. Eventually, if a physical street isn't drawn on that official piece of paper, the authorities just claim the street simply does not exist.
Even if you're standing right on it.
Even if you are standing on the pavement. That is the postmodern, post-truth reality. The paperwork is the map. Biological reality is the street.
So then metamodern synthesis in this context would be what? Learning how to read the map without forgetting that you're standing on solid ground.
Precisely. It's the ability to navigate this constructed, abstract system, knowing full well that it's fundamentally arbitrary and flawed, while simultaneously holding on to a fierce, sincere grip on your own inner objective truth.
Which is exactly what William Woods had to do.
Yeah, we're going to see how he was forced into a battle for his very soul against a machine that only knows how to read the map.
And we really need to learn from his survival. Because honestly, if we don't understand the mechanics of how he was erased, we're all totally vulnerable to being zeroed out of existence by a clerical error.
It's terrifying. So let's get into the actual mechanics of that erasure.
Right. So we start with that inciting incident I mentioned in the hook. The date is August 20, 2019. William Woods walks into a reputable branch of a national bank in Los Angeles to report identity theft.
And he had recently discovered massive debts and loans tied to his Social Security number, right?
Yeah. But it's really important to contextualize his physical reality at this exact moment in time. William Woods was living unhoused on the streets of Los Angeles.
Right, which makes his discovery of the fraud even more fascinating.
It really does. He actually managed to scrape together enough money to buy a credit monitoring service.
Which is not cheap. Why did he do that?
Because a massive YouTube creator named Yusuf Erekat, also known as Fauci Tube, had recently featured Woods in a viral video.
Oh, I remember that. Millions of people watched that video.
Millions.
Yeah.
They saw William Woods' actual face. They heard him state his name on camera. They watched him receive money for food.
Let's just pause and look at the juxtaposition of those two realities for a second, because it is literally the crux of the postmodern nightmare.
How so?
Well, on one hand, you have visceral, undeniable visual proof of his existence. Millions of human beings witnessed him breathing, speaking, and interacting in physical space.
Right, the ultimate biological proof.
And on the other hand, you have the hidden, silent ledgers of the financial system.
And to really capture what it felt like to stand at the intersection of those two realities, I actually want to read a passage directly from Sean Dempsey's text.
Please do. His writing on this is incredible.
It really is. He writes with such a haunting, precise clarity. So Dempsey writes, "It was on August 20, 2019 that I first learned I no longer existed. I learned this truth inside a bank of all places."
The irony of that location is just profound.
It is, he continues. I guess that is rather fitting, as a bank is one of those rare and venerable institutions where everything invisible is treated as real, and everything real must first be translated into abstractions.
That phrase right there. Everything real must first be translated into abstractions. That is the exact definition of the map overtaking the territory.
It's perfectly stated.
The bank doesn't care that a man is standing in front of them with a beating heart and breath in his lungs.
No, they don't care at all.
They only care whether his physical presence can be seamlessly translated into the abstraction stored on their server. And if the translation fails, the human being is rejected, not the server.
But I need to stop you there because the mechanics of this specific rejection are what absolutely baffle me.
Yeah, it's wild. Walk us through it.
So Woods is sitting in this beige fluorescent lobby, right? He explains to the assistant manager that his identity is stolen. He hands over his genuine California ID and his genuine Social Security card.
Physical proof.
Exactly. The manager then asks him security questions based on the fraudulent accounts.
Okay, standard procedure.
Right, but obviously Woods can't answer them because he didn't open them.
Which, under any normal logical conditions, would be the foundational proof of his claim.
Right. I don't know the password to an account I didn't create.
But instead of seeing this as evidence of the fraud, the manager sees it as proof that Woods is the imposter.
Yes. So she calls the phone number listed on the fraudulent accounts. A man in Wisconsin answers the phone. The thief.
Incredible.
And the thief smoothly identifies the man sitting in the Los Angeles bank, the real William Woods, as the imposter. And the manager she just believes him.
She doesn't just believe him, she finds bureaucratic satisfaction in his answer.
But how does a bank manager legally override federal and state physical documentation just because a guy on the phone sounded confident?
It seems crazy, but we have to understand the hierarchy of institutional trust here. Institutions don't actually evaluate truth, they evaluate credentials.
Okay, so what does that mean in this lobby?
The thief's accusation entered the room through a telephone number preserved in the bank's own internal records. Therefore, it arrived with pre-approved, valid credentials.
Ah, I see. And Woods' ID didn't.
Right. The physical ID Woods handed over originated from outside the bank's closed loop. In a post-truth bureaucracy, internal data will always outrank external physical evidence.
Wow.
The manager didn't make a moral judgment. She simply executed a sorting algorithm.
And the result of that sorting algorithm is that the police arrive. And they don't even tackle him or anything. As Dempsey writes, the arrest was completely, quote, administrative.
Just a polite shuffling of paperwork.
Exactly. They politely arrest William Woods for the crime of inconveniently being himself.
It's such an elegant, terrifying reversal. The thief in Wisconsin didn't even need to deny that identity theft was happening.
No, he just flipped it.
He simply utilized the bank's own momentum. Because his voice emanated from the sacred ledger of the database, the police just deferred to him.
Which begs the massive question, right? How did a random guy in Wisconsin manage to build a profile so bulletproof, so heavily armored in institutional validation, that the actual flesh and blood William Woods was arrested for claiming his own name?
We really need to trace the architecture of this stolen life. It took decades to build.
Yeah, so let's go back to the genesis of the theft. This took place all the way back in 1988 at a hot dog cart in Albuquerque, New Mexico.
A hot dog cart? You can't make this up.
You really can't. So Woods and a man named Matthew David Kierans worked together at this cart. And one day, Kierans stole Woods' wallet.
And when Woods realized it was missing, he actually confronted him, right?
He did. He threatened Kieran's, and Kieran's actually gave the physical leather wallet back, so Woods thought the incident was over.
But he didn't check the data.
Exactly. Kieran's had kept the vital numbers inside. The name, the date of birth, the social security number.
Dempsey actually refers to these data points as the, quote, small numerical organs by which a person is recognized and respected by the established order of things.
Oh, I love that biological metaphor.
It's so good, because by extracting those numbers, Kieran's essentially harvested the DNA of William Woods's societal existence.
That's exactly what he did. And he immediately goes to work cloning that existence in a lab of his own making.
So what's the timeline look like?
Well, in 1990, Kieran's gets a Colorado ID in Woods' name. Then in 1994, he gets married and actually has a child under Woods' name.
A whole family built on a stolen ledger.
Yeah. But the real structural reinforcement, the thing that locks it all in, happens in 2012.
The genealogy site.
Yes. Kieran's uses a genealogy service, like an Ancestry.com type database, to research Woods' actual family tree.
And what does he do with that info?
He uses that scraped historical data to request a certified Kentucky birth certificate, and the state of Kentucky just issues it to him.
It's staggering.
How does a state government fall for a genealogy site search?
Well, we have to look at the era. In 2012, many state registry offices were bridging the gap between legacy paper records and digital databases.
Okay, so things were a little messy.
Very messy. The verification protocols were shockingly circular. If an applicant could provide hyper-specific historical data like parents' full names, hospital locations, specific dates, the state just assumed they were the rightful owner of the identity.
They just trusted the data points.
Exactly. The state didn't realize that genealogy sites had essentially open-sourced all that private historical data.
So the thief uses public data to request private verification, and the state hands him a completely authentic, non-forged birth certificate.
That's it. And this is a crucial pivot point. The state authenticated the thief.
He's officially stamped by the government.
Yes. And from that moment on, the disguise became official enough to tolerate slight imperfections.
Like what? What kind of imperfection?
Well, for example, Kieran's used his own middle name, David, on some documents instead of Woods's actual middle name, which is Donald.
Oh, really? And nobody caught that?
The bureaucracy didn't care. It only cared that the primary key, the social security number, matched the ledgers.
Which leads to the most darkly ironic, almost comedic part of this whole timeline.
It's like a hospital job.
Yes.
Oh.
In 2013, Kieran's is hired at University of Iowa Healthcare, and he becomes a highly paid IT administrator with elevated access to critical hospital databases.
You literally couldn't write a script like this.
The man who literally constructed his entire existence inside databases is now placed in charge of databases containing the lives of thousands of other human beings.
And you really have to ask, how does he pass a high-level hospital background check?
Right. I mean, we assume background checks are these exhaustive investigations into a person's soul.
But they aren't. They're literally just API queries.
Okay, explain that mechanism, Chorus. What is the background check company actually doing behind the scenes?
Sure. So when the hospital ran the name William Woods through their background check vendor, the vendor's software just sent automated queries to the major credit bureaus. You know, Experian, Equifax, TransUnion.
Yeah.
Those bureaus looked at their ledgers and saw a man who had been paying taxes since 1990, who was married, and who, between 2014 and 2022, acquired over $250,000 across 9 different vehicle and personal loans.
So the background check company just asks the credit bureaus, hey, is this guy real?
Yeah.
And the credit bureaus say, well, he owes us $250,000, so he must be real.
Precisely. That right there is the loop of recursive affirmation.
Recursive affirmation.
Yes. Let's really break down how postmodern systems construct truth. When Kieran's applied for loan number 5, that specific bank asked bank number 4 if William Woods was real.
And bank 4 said yes.
Bank 4 said yes, based solely on what bank 3 told them, and so on. None of these institutions ever verified the physical human being.
Wow.
They only verified each other's records. They formed this totally closed, self-reflecting circle.
It's an echo chamber of paperwork.
Exactly.
And that echo chamber becomes so loud that it completely drowns out biological reality.
Right.
Which brings us right back to 2019, inside the Los Angeles County Jail.
Where Woods is now sitting.
Right. Woods has been arrested.
Yeah.
And the system books him under the name Matthew Kieran's. But here is the detail that absolutely infuriated me when I read this source material.
Oh, the spelling error.
Yes, the system actually misspelled the thief's last name in the booking. They spelled it K-I-E-R-A-N-S instead of K-E-I-R-A-N-S.
Which just perfectly illustrates the overwhelming hypocrisy of the bureaucratic machine.
How does it get away with that?
The system is permitted to make arbitrary spelling errors because it possesses the overwhelming weight of official authority. The system cannot be wrong. It can only, update itself.
Well, Woods
Woods is afforded no such grace. Because he possesses no accepted paperwork, he is permitted no errors, no deviations, and essentially no voice.
I want you to really put yourself in Woods' shoes for a second. You're sitting in a concrete jail cell. You know your own name. You know where you were born.
You know who you are.
But every single person wearing a badge tells you that a computer screen says you are a man named Matthew from Wisconsin.
It's terrifying.
And Woods is desperately begging his public defender to just do some basic human verification. He's telling them to call the hot dog man in Albuquerque from 1988. He's telling them, pull up the FauciTube YouTube videos on your phone.
He's handing them the proof.
He's screaming, look at me, look at the physical world. The evidence is right here.
But human details just exhaust the machine.
Why wouldn't a public defender just make the phone call? I mean, it takes 2 minutes.
Because a public defender in Los Angeles County is managing hundreds of cases simultaneously.
Yeah, that's true.
They do not have the bandwidth to become private investigators for a man the computer has already categorized as a delusional transient.
Right, the computer already made up its mind.
Exactly. Calling a hot dog vendor requires memory, judgment, patience, and a deviation from established legal forms. The thief in Wisconsin, meanwhile, had a mortgage. He had a credit score.
He was neatly formatted.
Yes, he was of statistical consequence to the system. Woods was not.
And because Woods stubbornly insists he is William Woods, which blatantly contradicts the state's flawless paperwork, the system decides to stop ignoring him and start pathologizing him.
This is where things get truly dark.
Very dark. On February 10th, 2020, the court declares William Woods incompetent to stand trial.
This is where the Kafkaesque nightmare reaches its absolute peak. Because the formal records prove another man is William Woods, the real William Woods' insistence on his own objective truth is weaponized against him.
It's used as proof of a profound mental delusion.
Exactly. They use his sanity as proof of his insanity.
It's mind-bending.
His grip on reality is cited by the psychiatric evaluator as the very evidence that he cannot understand reality.
So he is remanded to a state institution for the mentally unwell. And Dempsey has this incredible philosophical reflection on the psychiatrist's office where Woods is evaluated.
Oh, the part about the plant.
Yes. I want to read the first half of this because the symbolism is staggering. Dempsey writes, the psychiatrist's office smelled just like the bank and contained beige walls, a clock, and an artificial plant. I often think of that plant. It seemed to have been placed there as an example of proper citizenship.
Think about the implications of that imagery for a second. Proper citizenship.
Dempsey actually goes on to explain exactly what that means. He writes, it looked alive, remained where it had been assigned, and demanded nothing from the state. Again, as I said, I envied that plant.
The artificial plant is the state's ideal citizen.
Completely compliant.
Exactly. It is inorganic. It doesn't grow. It doesn't need water. It doesn't complain if you put it in a dark closet. It just exists exactly as the institution dictates. It is perfectly categorizable.
And Woods is the exact opposite of that plant.
Yes, he is. The institution cannot handle organic life because organic life is messy. It insists on its own truth.
It has a soul.
Precisely. Woods is a creature of God. He possesses a human soul, a biological reality, and that inherently makes him incompatible with the barren, categorizing machine of the psychiatric state.
The psychiatrist isn't there to heal his mind, are they?
No, she is there to classify his non-compliance with the database.
And the evaluation is a completely rigged game.
Yeah.
When Woods gets angry about being called Matthew, the psychiatrist writes down that he is emotionally unstable.
Right.
But when he is calm and tries to logically explain the hot dog cart in 1988, she notes that he has a deeply organized, systematized delusion.
He can't win.
The pen can only record data that fits within the conclusion the state has already reached through its ledgers.
This is the terrifying power of institutional gaslighting. It doesn't just lock up your physical body, it attempts to completely rewrite your internal reality.
It demands total surrender.
It demands that you surrender your subjective experienced truth to the objective, fabricated truth of the API query.
So Woods is forced into a state hospital on October 20, 2020. And the state attempts to literally cure him of his own identity using forced psychotropic drugs.
We really need to unpack the existential horror of that specific detail.
Please do.
Psychotropic drugs alter the chemical landscape of the brain. They change how you perceive yourself and your environment. The state is chemically eroding his sense of self to make him compliant with a clerical error.
If he objects to the drugs, they just document that he lacks insight into his, quote, condition.
Right.
And if he swallows the pills, they document that he is improving, that he is finally accepting that he is Matthew Kieran.
It's a catch-22 of the soul.
The state's cure for his existence is complete and total mental erasure. So, how does a man survive when the cure requires him to extinguish his own soul?
That leads us right into the bureaucratic purgatory Woods endures. Because the state couldn't process his biological truth, Woods realized his physical body would literally die in that hospital if he didn't learn to speak the sterile language of the machine.
Which brings us to the devastating compromise he makes on March 17th, 2021.
The plea deal.
Yeah. After spending 576 days in custody, bouncing between the county jail and the state hospital, being chemically restrained, William Woods pleads no contest to the charges.
But as Dempsey makes profoundly clear in the essay, Woods isn't actually confessing to anything.
No, he's simply regurgitating the necessary sterile language to satisfy the processing algorithm.
He realizes that the door will only unlock if he feeds the machine the exact combination of words it demands to hear.
This is a profound moment of metamodern awareness for Woods, isn't it?
It absolutely is. He recognizes that the state's language is entirely divorced from morality, justice, or objective truth.
It's just a formula.
It is simply a processing mechanism. By pleading no contest, he is preserving his internal truth. He knows he isn't guilty, while strategically surrendering to the external bureaucracy just to free his physical body from the chemical straitjacket.
But the state isn't done stripping him of his dignity. Upon his release, the judge delivers the ultimate insult.
Oh, this part is just brutal.
It is. The court legally orders Woods to use his, quote, true name going forward. And the name the judge orders him to use, under threat of further imprisonment, is Matthew Kieran's.
The erasure is literally codified into law.
He entered the system to report his identity stolen, and he emerges legally forbidden from ever using his own name again.
And Dempsey notes the physical toll this takes on him.
Yeah, he notes that outside, every time Woods has to fill out a form for housing or apply for a menial job, he physically gags. He literally vomits having to write his thief's name on the paper.
That is the body's visceral, biological rejection of the bureaucratic lie.
It's like his body's fighting back.
His soul and his nervous system are violently rejecting the false reality the state has forced upon him. The cognitive dissonance is so profound, so deeply unnatural, that it manifests as an actual physical illness.
And just when you think the irony couldn't possibly get any darker, we hit June 2021.
The bill.
The bill. The state of California decides it needs to be reimbursed for the cost of confining and forcibly medicating William Woods. They want their money back for the drugs they forced down his throat.
Of course they do.
So their automated billing system generates an invoice for $118,000.
And let me guess exactly where the API routed that invoice.
It routed it to the name in the medical records, William Woods, which means the bill goes to the verified William Woods in Wisconsin. The thief gets the bill for the real Woods' torture.
The self-reflecting circle completes another rotation.
And Kieran's gets this bill, and what does he do? He calls the state of California, reports himself as a victim of identity theft, and gives them the real Woods' physical address in Los Angeles.
The audacity is just,
Yeah.
wow.
So California turns around and bills the real Woods $118,000 for the privilege of being erased.
It is breathtaking in its mechanical cruelty.
I have to read Dempsey's summary of this moment because it captures the sheer unapologetic madness perfectly.
It's one of the best lines in the piece.
Dempsey writes, "The joke was too complete to be funny. The state had imprisoned me for claiming to be myself, medicated me for refusing to become someone else, released me under that other man's name, and then demanded immediate payment for the treatment."
It's the ultimate punchline of the post-truth era.
Dempsey finishes the thought with this: "Heartache and laughter may both touch the same immortal human soul, but one tickles while the other burns."
If we synthesize this entire sequence of events, it is the purest distillation of postmodern bureaucracy.
How so?
Because truth has been utterly divorced from reality and attached entirely to procedural correctness.
It's all about the procedure.
Look at it from the system's perspective. It executed its procedures flawlessly. It identified a discrepancy at the bank, it isolated the anomaly in a jail cell, it applied a psychiatric treatment, and it generated an invoice to recoup costs.
It did its job.
Yes. The fact that it destroyed an innocent man's soul in the process is completely irrelevant, because the system has no capacity, no metric to measure a soul. It only measures compliance.
So how does this tightly wound thread ever unravel? How does Woods escape a trap that is constantly reinforcing itself?
He has to take a different angle.
Right, because by January 2023, he has absolutely nothing left. He is fueled, in Dempsey's words, by pure bile and righteous spite. So he does the only thing he can think of. He finds out where the thief works, and he calls the Human Resources Department at University of Iowa Healthcare.
It's almost a petty move, honestly. He's just trying to throw sand in the gears of the thief's life.
Exactly. But it works. The HR complaint gets routed to the university police, and by sheer luck, it lands on the desk of a detective named Ian Mallory.
And Detective Mallory represents something incredibly rare in this entire 35-year saga.
What's that?
A human being inside the system who is actually willing to use analog judgment instead of just checking the digital ledger.
Right. Every other clerk, bank manager, public defender, and psychiatrist looked at the conflicting records and deferred to the one with the most data attached to it.
They stopped looking the second it became inconvenient.
But Mallory keeps looking. He digs deep into the legacy government databases, and he finds a tiny anomaly. He finds 2 FBI numbers.
Now, explain how those databases work and why literally no one found this before.
So an FBI number is tied to fingerprints in the AFIS system, the Automated Fingerprint Identification System. Mallory finds one FBI number for the William Woods in Wisconsin tied to an arrest Kieran's had as a teenager under his real name.
Okay.
And he finds a second FBI number for the William Woods in California tied to the arrests Woods had while being homeless.
The biometric.
Yes. Mallory realizes that the biometric data, the physical fingerprints, don't match the bureaucratic narrative. The truth had never actually been erased. It had just been misfiled under a different search parameter.
That is a profound commentary on digital permanence, isn't it?
It really is.
Our history never really vanishes in the digital age. It just becomes subject to the search parameters of whoever is querying the database. If you don't know the exact string to search, the truth remains invisible.
But Mallory found the string.
He found it.
And Mallory doesn't stop there. He uses old-school police work. He tracks down Woods' biological father in Kentucky.
A physical, real-world connection.
Exactly. And finally, we arrive at the breakthrough. On June 19, 2023, a laboratory compares the DNA of the father in Kentucky with the DNA of the man who had been wandering through the psychiatric wards of California.
The moment of truth.
The lab conclusively rules that the man in Los Angeles is, undeniably, his father's son, William Donald Woods.
A return to biology. A return to the physical truth we discussed at the very beginning of the deep dive.
And the irony is just staggering. It took a facility made of, as Dempsey puts it, plastic, metal, and science to finally prove to the state that this man's soul existed.
They needed a printout?
Yes. Woods' physical body literally had to be processed by a laboratory to produce the correct paperwork acceptable to the state. The blood had to become a form before the state would believe the blood was real.
Because the DNA test itself didn't change objective reality, Woods was always William Woods.
Obviously.
But the DNA test translated that objective reality into the only language the postmodern state understands: certified scientific data.
Data points.
Exactly. The physical body finally generated a ledger entry more powerful than the thief's $250,000 financial history.
It's like an autoimmune disease of the bureaucracy.
Ooh, I like that.
Think about it. The system had created so many false antibodies, so many fake records, fake loans, fake birth certificates, that when it finally encountered the real virus, the actual truth, it had no idea how to label it.
It didn't recognize it. Right. It needed a totally new scientific diagnostic tool just to recognize reality.
I love that analogy. An autoimmune disease of the bureaucracy.
Yeah.
It was attacking its own healthy cells.
So, armed with this ultimate DNA ledger entry, Detective Mallory moves in. On July 17th, 2023, police arrest Matthew Kieran's at the University of Iowa.
The architect falls.
And because the state's records are now entirely corrupted and confused, Kieran's is actually booked into jail as a John Doe. He enters custody without a name.
The ultimate poetic justice. The architect of the false identity is stripped of all identity.
Mallory confronts Kieran's in the interrogation room with the DNA evidence, and Kieran's just deflates. He looks at the detective and says, "My life is over, isn't it?" And he confesses.
Wow.
But here is the detail that blew my mind. Even after confessing, out of pure, ingrained habit, Kieran still gives William Woods' name to the police officers during his formal booking.
It speaks to how deeply the constructed reality had embedded itself, not just in the databases, but in the mind of the architect himself.
35 years. He had played the role for 35 years. It was muscle memory at that point. The map had become his territory, too.
When Mallory calls Woods in California to tell him the thief is finally arrested, Woods is strangely calm. He just says, "Cool, I told you so."
Just cool.
Yeah, and people thought he was in shock. But Dempsey writes something brilliant about this reaction. He notes that Woods wasn't shocked because the discovery didn't belong to the police.
Right, they didn't discover anything new.
The police were just catching up. Woods had known the truth all along. He never let go of it.
And this brings us right to the core metamodern diagnosis of our deep dive today.
Let's do it.
Let's synthesize what we've learned from this nightmare. The postmodern era deconstructed objective truth. It taught us that reality is just a series of narratives, that institutions construct truth through power and consensus, just like those recursive bank ledgers that built Kieran's false life.
The system decided what was real based purely on internal agreement, not on objective biology.
Exactly. And in a purely postmodern framework, Woods was defeated. The consensus was overwhelmingly against him.
The paperwork had won.
But the metamodern synthesis requires something more complex for survival. It requires us to understand and navigate that postmodern skepticism, to know that the ledgers are arbitrary, that the bank managers are just running algorithms, and the systems are deeply flawed, while simultaneously holding on to a fierce, sincere, unwavering grip on our inner objective truth.
Like Woods refusing to let go of his identity, even when it meant being locked in a psychiatric ward and fed pills meant to erase his mind.
Exactly. Woods survived because he maintained his internal sovereignty. He knew who he was.
Even when everyone told him otherwise.
He allowed his physical body to be imprisoned. He even compromised by speaking the sterile language of the plea deal just to escape the chemical restraints. But he never let the system overwrite his soul.
He protected his core.
Metamodernism is about oscillating between knowing the system is a constructed game and maintaining the profound sincerity of your own human existence. We protect our human souls by building an internal fortress of truth, even when the external world attempts to endlessly gaslight us.
So the truth is out. The thief is caught. The biological reality has been verified by the state's plastic and metal machines.
It's all verified.
But what happens when you get your identity back 35 years late? Is it a triumph? Does the orchestra swell and the credits roll? Or is it just the end of a nightmare that you can never really wake up from?
That is the tragedy of the hollow victory. You can't just undo the erosion of a soul.
Because the aftermath is pretty bleak. On April 11, 2024, a judge officially vacates Woods' convictions and declares him factually innocent. The judge calls the case surreal, which feels like a massive judicial cop-out to avoid admitting systemic failure.
Yes, surreal is letting the system off the hook.
The state of California eventually compensates Woods. They give him $80,640 for the 576 days they stole from him.
That's it.
That's it. Matthew Kieran is sentenced to 12 years in federal prison. And today, William Woods lives in Albuquerque, working as a landscaper. His documents finally say, William Donald Woods.
But a life is not a brick wall. You can't just slide the missing pieces back into place and pretend the mortar isn't cracked.
And you can never unsee the machinery. You can never unsee how fragile your existence is.
Oh, no, you can't.
To really grasp the permanent psychological toll this takes, I have to read the concluding section of Dempsey's essay. It is a chilling, poetic dream sequence that Woods experiences.
That's terrifying.
Listen to this imagery, he writes. In my dreams, the bank has grown until it contains the whole city, the whole county, the whole country. Its corridors extend through police stations, hospitals, psychiatric offices, courtrooms, credit bureaus, and government offices. There are no windows. Every corridor returns to the same counter, and the walls are stained in black ink.
The bank has become the entire world. The map has completely consumed the territory.
In the dream, Woods approaches a smiling clerk and says someone stole his identity. She gives him a form. He writes his name. She says it's a disputed name.
It's like a maze.
He says it's his. She tells him to write the name in the records. He says the records are wrong. And the clerk looks at him and says, the system cannot be wrong. It can, however, be corrected by proving your identity with government-issued identification.
The circular logic of the nightmare.
He hands her his ID card. She puts it in a tray that disappears into the wall, into the pipes of the machinery. She tells him to take a seat, that his identity is being processed. And the essay concludes with this horrifying final image.
Brace yourselves for this one.
Dempsey writes, "The waiting room is filled with men who look vaguely familiar. I think they share my face, or perhaps it is the face of the usurper. Each one holds a number. Above us, a screen flashes the words, 'Now serving William Woods.'
It's so vivid.
Every man stands. The clerk calls for order, and we all sit down again. The screen continues displaying my name, bold typeface. But the letters are profane. The letters laugh at me. They each stare at me with ghastly intent. My dreadful, incorrigible name mocks me and shakes my soul entire. My damnable name, it stares at me and condemns me as I cry in horror.
It is utterly haunting.
It is the stuff of actual paralyzing nightmares.
But it is a perfectly accurate psychological rendering of what the postmodern machine does to a human being.
It changes you permanently.
The trauma doesn't just steal your time or your money. It attempts to consume your soul. That dream signifies that while Woods won the legal battle, he got his name back on the official ledger, the existential dread of being erased by the system lingers forever.
He knows it can happen again.
He knows on a visceral level that the bank is the city, the bank is the country, the ledger is everywhere.
He knows how incredibly fragile human existence is in the face of the database API.
The letters of his own name are mocking him in the dream because his name is no longer just a reflection of his soul, it is a vector for institutional control.
Right.
The system showed him its teeth. It showed him that his biology means nothing without its permission. And you can't just go back to trusting the beige lobby after you've seen the teeth.
Think about your own life for a second. Think about your digital footprint. Where does that leave us? What is the ultimate takeaway for you listening to this deep dive right now?
This raises the most important question of all, one that we all need to mull over long after this discussion ends.
What's the question?
In our hyper-digital age, your entire existence, your money, your history, your credibility, your health records, your right to participate in society is stored on servers that you do not control.
Servers we never even see.
It is managed by clerks and algorithms that do not know you and that prioritize each other's data over your physical reality. So who actually owns you?
That's a heavy thought.
If a system, through a glitch or a malicious actor, can vote you out of existence tomorrow, what parts of your identity are truly untouchably yours?
It brings us right back to that opening thought. We want to believe our identity is grounded in our biology and the physical truth of our heartbeat and our flesh.
But it isn't.
No. This story proves that the system's X-ray doesn't look at your bones. It looks at your data.
And that is the philosophical challenge for all of us. You must figure out how to build a metamodern fortress around your soul.
You have to protect the core.
You have to cultivate an internal reality, a core of self-knowledge and sovereign truth that is so strong, so impenetrable, that no clerk, no bureaucratic ledger, and no thief in Wisconsin can ever access it or redefine it.
Because the map is not the territory.
Because in a post-truth world, your internal conviction might be the only undeniable proof of existence you have left.
A fortress around your soul.
Oh.
Because when the screen flashes your name, you better know exactly who is supposed to stand up.
Well, that was today's episode of Metamodernism Uncensored. Thank you for joining, and we'll see you again next time.